You know, when we look up at the world's massive megastructures, it's really easy to just get lost in all that steel, glass, and concrete. But today, we're looking past the engineering. We're going to uncover the real battle happening up there in the clouds. Because as it turns out, the drive to build the biggest structures on Earth, it isn't just about the architecture, it's heavily about psychology, it's about massive egos, and ultimately, it's about the name that gets permanently etched onto the skyline.
So what does it actually take to get your name on the world's biggest building? I mean, is it just having the absolute deepest pockets? Or maybe it's purely a matter of architectural genius. Well, as we dive into the psychology of naming and ownership today, you're going to see that the answer is as varied and honestly, sometimes as incredibly petty as human nature itself. Okay, let's dive into this by traveling back to the fierce 1930 skyscraper race in New York. We had this absolutely massive, highly public rivalry between the Chrysler Building and the Bank of Manhattan Building, right? So Shreve and Lamb, the consulting architects for the Bank of Manhattan, were literally furious when Chrysler claimed the title of tallest building. They actually went as far as writing a newspaper article to argue that their bank building was the true winner. Why? Because it contained the highest usable floor at 255 meters. They pointed out, quite bitterly I might add, that the Chrysler Building's surpassing spire was strictly ornamental, completely inaccessible. It was a total battle over what actually counted as a building when millions of dollars and giant egos were on the line. Now, to stop ridiculous arguments exactly like that one, the Council on Vertical Urbanism, or the CVU, was formed back in 1969. And while the CVU now officially sets the rules to settle these disputes, specifically by measuring to the highest architectural feature of completed buildings, that hunger for naming rights, yeah, it definitely hasn't diminished. In fact, as these buildings have grown taller and taller over the decades, that hunger has only gotten more intense.
Section 1. Corporate giants and egos. The tallest towers.
When we look at the corporate titans currently battling it out for the top spot, buildings like the Ping An Finance Center, the Lotte World Tower, and the CITIC Tower, you might notice a pretty obvious theme. None of these are named after the cities they're in or even historical figures. No, these megatalls are essentially acting as massive multi-million-dollar billboards. By slapping their corporate name on a structure soaring well over 500 meters into the sky, these companies are permanently etching their dominance into a city skyline for everyone to see.
To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of this corporate ambition, just look at the Ping An Finance Center in Shenzhen, China. This thing stands at an incredible 599.1 meters. And here's the crazy part. This isn't just some mixed-use space. It actually ranks as the tallest all-office building in the entire world. It perfectly illustrates exactly how far a single company is willing to go just to visually and physically dominate a major economic hub.
Section 2. Factories, airports, and function. The largest by floor area. But, you know, height is really only half the story here, because when we shift gears and look at buildings that are the largest by physical footprint, the whole naming convention changes entirely. We get names like the Avtovaz Main Assembly Building, Dubai International Airport Terminal 3, the Alsmere Flower Auction, and Gigafactory Texas. Notice the comedic contrast here. There's absolutely zero vanity in these names. They're incredibly literal, highly functional, and they perfectly match the sprawling, massive operations happening right inside of them.
Just to emphasize how massive these functional buildings actually are, 6 million. That is the square meter floor area of the Avtovaz Lada car factory in Russia. To put that into perspective, it is just a mind-boggling amount of space. And get this, that doesn't even include the attached smaller buildings on the complex. It really asks us to take a step back and marvel at the sheer unimaginable scale hidden behind a completely boring industrial name.
So the crucial takeaway here is this: extreme size doesn't always come with a massive ego-driven name. While the corporate skyscrapers are up in the clouds literally screaming for our attention, the world's largest floor area buildings are firmly on the ground. They're just quietly doing the heavy lifting of global industry without demanding to be famous.
Section 3. Monuments of National Pride. Symbols over corporations.
But, you know, there's actually a third reason to name a megastructure, and it goes way beyond corporate ego or literal boring function. We're talking about structures built for cultural, religious, and national legacy. These buildings easily rival or even completely surpass the corporate giants in size, but their names serve a totally different purpose to the people who build them. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean.
Take One World Trade Center in New York City, for example. It stands at 541.3 meters.
Now, that specific height was very intentional. It translates perfectly to 1776 feet to mirror the year of American independence. It currently ranks 7th globally and stands as the tallest building outside of Asia. Built following the destruction of the original Twin Towers in the September 11 attacks back in 2001, its name isn't up for corporate sponsorship. It's a symbolic marker of resilience and history.
And we see this exact same thing happening globally. The Mecca Royal Clock Tower in Saudi Arabia is towering at 601 meters. It acts as a monumental beacon for the religious center of the Islamic world, and it even features the highest museum in the entire world. Meanwhile, Malaysia's Merdeka 118, which is the second tallest building on Earth, takes its name directly from the word for independence. So unlike the corporate towers, these names are acting as permanent monuments to identity rather than serving private owners.
Section 4. The ultimate naming rights. The twist of the Burj Khalifa. Okay, we absolutely cannot talk about naming rights without discussing the current, undisputed, reigning champion of tall buildings. 828 meters. That is the staggering, completely unmatched height of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Boasting 163 floors above grade, this giant has firmly held the world record as the tallest building on the planet since 2009.
It's officially classified by the CVU as a megatall structure. And honestly, it's an unbelievable engineering feat. It contains over 300,000 square meters of usable floor area. It is literally the ultimate crown jewel of vertical architecture. But the story of how it actually got its name, that is the ultimate plot twist in the entire history of building ownership.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that for years, the world watched the Burj Dubai climb higher and higher into the sky, right? It was meant to be the ultimate namesake for the city of Dubai itself. But then we got a massive plot twist. Right at its opening ceremony in January 2010, it was suddenly renamed the Burj Khalifa. This was in honor of Sheikh Khalifa ibn Zayed Al Nahyan, the leader of the neighboring emirate of Abu Dhabi, who stepped in and provided crucial financial backing at the very last minute. It just goes to prove that even when you reach the absolute pinnacle of human engineering, the name on the door ultimately belongs to the one who writes the final check and secures the legacy.
So we've seen buildings named to settle petty architectural rivalries, buildings named to project sheer corporate dominance, massive factories with totally boring functional names, and soaring monuments dedicated to national pride. It's just a fascinating intersection of architecture, wealth, and ego. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If you had the limitless resources to build the world's next megastructure, what name would you put on the door? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes how you look at the skyline.